Hello, welcome back to Beginning Python. This is lesson 3. So, to cover what we're planning on going over this week, the first is advanced Boolean, so and or not, we'll go over that later, and while loops. So before we get started, here's some quick review. If you don't know the answer to any of these problems, you might want to go back through the earlier lessons and just make sure you know the answer. So, what is the difference between equals equals and just 1 equals? What does 5 times 4 plus 3 over 3 minus 2 equal? This is an order of operations problem. And what will this code do? X equals 1, and then if x is greater than or equal to 1, print high. So will it print high or not? Okay. So a quick intro to advanced Booleans. If you're wearing jeans, raise your hand or think yes to yourself. If you're wearing jeans and a blue shirt, raise your hand. If you're wearing jeans or a blue shirt, raise your hand. If you are not wearing jeans, raise your hand. So that was actually us forcing you to go through advanced Booleans like you were a computer. So here they are. We have the regular Boolean, true or false. That's the ones we've been working with this so far. Not Boolean, which flips. So if it's true, then the output is false. If it's false, the output is true. That's the if you are not wearing jeans. So even though the output is false, you're not wearing jeans, it's considered true because it's a not Boolean. And then we have or. So if at least one, so one or both of these are true, then the operator returns true. So if you're wearing a blue shirt or jeans, you only have to be wearing one, then it returns true. And lastly, we have the and. That means both of them must be true. You only raise your hand if you're wearing a blue shirt and jeans. Not one, you have to be wearing both. So here's a quick diagram for you of basically which part of the Venn diagrams have to be filled out. So or, it could be anywhere. You could have both, you could have one or the other. And it has to be both. So you can only be in the middle. And not is here. So if you're wearing blue jeans and not, you only have to be wearing blue jeans. If you're wearing a blue shirt, it won't count. So if you're wearing a blue shirt and not blue jeans, then you would activate this. So here's some quick examples using the one we were using earlier. So hair is equal to blue, false. He has brown hair. Jacket equals blue. This is true. Hair equals blue, false, and jacket equals blue. So this will output false because the and tells us both booleans here have to be true, but only one of them is. And then not hair equals blue. So this is true because not, remember, basically gives you the opposite of the boolean. So if your hair is not blue, then this will return true. So hair equals blue or jacket equals blue. This returns true because or means only one of them has to be true. So we have a false and a true, and we have at least one true, and that means this entire thing will return true. So some quick practice. Are these booleans true or false? So x equal to 7. That's not part of a boolean. That's just setting the variable. X is greater than 6. X is not equal to 7. Remember, equals equals means equivalent to. X is greater than 5, or x is equal to 5. X is equal to 7, and x is greater than 10. X is not equal to 6, and x is greater than 3. And not this whole thing. So x is equal to 6, x is not equal to 6, or it's not greater than 9. So it's neither, which means it can't be either of those. Okay, you can pause and go over them in your head. Okay, so the later ones get pretty difficult, but first we start off true because x is greater than 6. That's 7. This is false because 7 is equal, but we have this not sign or exclamation point, which means it's false. Or it is true because 7 is greater than 5 and only one of them has to be correct. False because both of them have to be correct because x is equal to 7, but 7 is never greater than 10. So it would always have to be false. And here, this one might have been a little confusing. It's not equal to 6. That's correct. And x is greater than 3. That'll be true. And the last one, this is going to be true because in this case, neither of them have to be true for this to be correct. Since if neither of them are true in the or statement, then it'll give false, which is then flipped into true by the not. So hopefully that made sense. If it didn't, you might want to go back and listen to my explanation again. Okay, so now we're doing a quick practice with advanced booleans. So I want you guys to make a program that prints a number only if it's divisible by 3 and greater than 10. And remember to check if something's divisible by a number, use modulus or mod with the percent sign. And if you do mod 3, if x mod 3 is equal to 0, then it is divisible by 3 because that means there's no remainder. And then you could just do if x is greater than 10. And then have another boolean that prints out a number only if it is less than or equal to 17 or divisible by 3. So this one, it could either be an even number or 17. And remember to check if it's divisible by 2, just have the mod 2 symbol, and then if it's equal to 0, then it is divisible. And remember, beforehand you have to define a variable, and also this should be contained within an if statement. Okay, you guys can pause for a few minutes and work on that. Okay, so this is how it should have looked something like that. It doesn't have to be exact, but x equals 12, that's just our example. If x mod 3 is equal to 0 and x is greater than 10, print the number. And then second one, x equals 9. If x is less than or equal to 17 or x mod 2 is equal to 0, it'll print x. So yeah, it should look something like this. You might have had different numbers here, but yeah, it should be generally pretty similar. Okay. So I want you guys to think about, what do you think a while loop is? What can we use it for? Okay, so a while loop basically repeats the indented code while the condition is true. So if condition is true, keep doing this thing. So basically the structure of this is while condition, and just like an if statement, we'd have a boolean in here. You'd loop whatever is in here. So here's a quick diagram. So condition, if it's true, we run the code. And then we check again. Is it still true? Yeah, okay, we run it. And then we keep doing that until, oh, the statement is false, so we go here. So you check the condition and it's false, so you just end the loop and go to the next line of code. So some important things to remember. The condition in the parentheses is a Boolean expression, just like an if statement. And yeah, so the syntax will be similar. It'll have colon, and then anything in the loop has to be indented. A quick example here, x equals 1, while x is less than 1, print high. So unless you want to have an infinite loop, you always have to be careful that your loops will terminate at some point. So here, x equals 1, while x is equal to 1, print 1. This is going to be an infinite loop because x is always going to be equal to 1. We never change it. So it's always just going to print 1 until your computer crashes or you end the program. So stuff like this is going to break your code unless you're planning on having an infinite loop, maybe for a project or something. But unless you're planning on having an infinite loop, you should be sure to uh, refresh your condition at some point so that it becomes false. So yeah, something like this, in our example before, 1 equals 1 is always going to be true, so don't use that as your condition. A good easy way is to have a counter that you're counting up, and that way your condition will change to false eventually. So if we start out x equals 5, while x is greater than 10, print x, and then at the end of the loop we have x equals x minus 1, then every time we print x, it'll be smaller. So first we'll print 15, then 14, 13, 12, 11, 10, and then once we get to 9, it'll trigger this condition to be false, so it'll eventually leave. Another example, x equals 1, while x equals 1, print 1, but the next time every time we run the loop, it increases x by 1, which means x equals 2, so this is not true anymore, so it'll only print 1 once. Okay, how to exit a loop. So you can also manually exit a loop even though the condition is still true using break. This is basically a manual way for you to have a condition instead of just putting it in the initial condition. So here, while true, x equals x plus 1, print x. If x is equal to 100, break. So what we've essentially done is recreated the starting condition because this here will loop forever, but as an if statement, once it equals 100, it'll break out. So this is just like having while x is not equal to 100 and then incrementing x by 1. So, and then you should be thinking about how you could use break in our final numbered guessing game project. So, some quick review questions. Make sure you can explain what a while loop is, maybe to someone in your house or just to yourself in your own words. Try to describe it as best you can. What's an infinite loop? And what are the ways we learn to avoid infinite loops? So there's two. Okay, so hopefully you paused and went over those. If you didn't, again, you could just go through the video again. So now we're going to be using a while loop to print each number from 1 to 100, just like the example earlier. So first we'll assign a variable and assign the number 1, so x equals 1, because that's what we're counting from, and have a while loop with the initial condition being while x is not less than 100. So while x is less than 100. And then inside, we're going to print it, and then we're going to increase the variable. That way we don't get an infinite loop, and the number it's printing here is going to increase by 1. And if you finish early, or you feel like you want to challenge, use your original code, and only print it out when it's divisible by 3 and 5. And an extra challenge problem, have a variable called choice equal to yes, the string, and have a variable called number and have it equal to 1 to 10. And if the choice is yes, it prints the phrase dog on a log with a frog exactly the amount of times as the variable number. So if you have it 10 times, it'll print this statement 10 times. So that's a way to set up in your initial while loop. And then if it's any other number, it'll print that amount of times. Okay, so you can pause and work on any of those three. This one or just the basic 1 to 100. Okay, so hopefully you went over those. The solution should look a little something like this. So our counter variable is equal to 1, and while counter is less than equal to, this equal to is important because once it hits 100, we want it to count one more time and then break the loop. So if you just did less than 100, it would only go to 99, and when it increments, it'll be, oh, 100 is going to make this false, so we won't print that out. And for the challenge, you could do x mod 3 equals 0 and x mod 5 equals 0 before printing in an if statement. Or you could just do x mod 15 because that's both of these. So if you have any questions, you should probably understand why these lines are indented, and counter equals counter plus 1. What does that mean? What are you doing to counter? Why does it equal itself plus 1? So now we're going to be working on your number guessing game using what we learned. So we'll have a while loop to keep checking the numbers and asking for an input. So have a while loop around your if conditions, and then the condition to exit using break should be, or not using break, sorry, the initial condition, where you have the while and then in parentheses, while the lives are greater than 0. So in your initial condition, have a while lives is greater than 0. So as long as they have lives left over, they can keep guessing. And then inside your loop, so we can basically have another condition, have a if, and then their guess is equal to the number, then just break. So if they've guessed correctly, then you can break, and they've won the game. So just a quick recap. Today you learned advanced booleans and you used while loops, and hopefully you were able to incorporate that in your project using this explanation. Otherwise, again, office hours are here. Using this link, it should be in your parents' email, and office hours are at this time.